finding out that this Prime Minister is all sizzle and no steak. It turns out that his big pipeline announcement won't actually build a pipeline. He's going to have a meeting to set up a plan and then sign a piece of paper that talks about maybe one day putting shovels in the ground. And now he's handing a veto power to the NDP in British Columbia, allowing them to block the whole thing. The Prime Minister is in Ottawa, and we know that he's having trouble with his own caucus on this issue. And now he's ducking the only question that Canadians have. Was yesterday the start of a real pipeline, or just the latest episode in announce now and deliver never?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I'd invite that member to get a ticket to Calgary tomorrow as well, and they could see why the Premier of Alberta thinks that things have never been so good in Canada.
For Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, that wasn't their answer yesterday. In fact, that isn't what the government said at all when they gave BC the veto in this House. Maybe they need to brush up on the Constitution, because Section 92 explicitly gives them the power to build pipelines, whether David Eby likes it or not. He also got the legal authority from this House when they asked us to pass Bill C-5 to circumvent their own regulations. And the only thing holding them back now is the same gutless paralysis that kept our oil buried and Canadians with less money over the last 10 years. So instead of hiding behind the premiers, will he get up and announce that he's going to build a pipeline?
Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, they seem determined not to want to see any development in this country. What we understand is it's federal government jurisdiction to approve a pipeline. We also understand that if a proponent wants to take it to the Major Projects Office, we expect them to work in conjunction with the affected jurisdiction and to consult First Nations. The Premier of Alberta understands that. Unfortunately, the members of the opposition don't.
Member for Calgary East.
The Prime Minister is all set to stage a fake pipeline photo op. What he'll probably do is hand the veto power to kill that pipeline to the BC Premier so he doesn't have to do it himself. Section 9210 of the Constitution says the federal government has the sole power to approve interprovincial projects and get shovels in the ground. The only person blocking the pipeline today is this Prime Minister. Will he stand up today and commit to repealing the taker ban, axing the industrial carbon tax, and actually getting this oil pipeline built?
Way to go, Dad!
The Honourable Government House Leader.
How many pipelines have they built? Zero.
Mr. Speaker, we learned in the course of the last election campaign that the Leader of the Opposition had in fact never spoken to the Conservative Premier of Ontario, Mr. Ford. Now, I know the Leader of the Opposition to be someone who will look back, maybe look back too often, but he looks very backwards. He'll want to learn from that mistake, and I really suggest he not make that mistake again with the Premier of Alberta. Mr. Leader of the Opposition, please call Danielle Smith.
The Honourable Member for Calgary East.
With the amount of hot air coming out of that member's mouth, I'm surprised the Liberals haven't slapped a carbon tax on it. That answer was as fake as this Prime Minister's promises. Tomorrow, he'll make this grand show and pretend that he wants to get a pipeline built, but he'll hide behind someone else and get them to cancel it so he doesn't have to do it himself. The only person that can get this pipeline approved is this Prime Minister. Does the pipeline need to be sponsored by Brookfield so it actually gets built?
Unfortunately, that plane's going to get pretty full. I invite the member across to buy a ticket and come to Calgary and see what a federal government, how they can work with the provincial government to build Canada strong.
The Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
This Prime Minister promised to build Canada strong, and yet when it comes to a pipeline to BC's coast, a pipeline that could end the U.S. monopoly on Canadian oil and bring billions of dollars into Canada, he transforms into a helpless bystander, hiding behind the NDP Premier in BC, ceding responsibility, abdicating leadership. The Constitution is clear. National pipelines are the sole jurisdiction of the federal government, and failing to act is a betrayal of our national interests. It's a betrayal of our workers, and it's selling out to the Americans. Will they build the pipeline, yes or no?
Yes. The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, listen,
listen, today's good news for the many companies around the country who are working so hard to stay in business in the middle of this trade war. Whether it's steel, whether it's lumber, Mr. Speaker, we have their backs. And today we're going to talk more about what else we can do, not only to make sure that we protect these companies, but to help them grow their footprint, to sell their product to Canada and around the world. These guys cannot get their head out of the sand, literally, Mr. Speaker, for the sake of the companies right now who need our support. We'll do that work.
Honourable member for North Island, Powell River.
You know, Mr. Speaker, maybe if Brookfield proposed a pipeline, we could actually get one backed by this Prime Minister. Let's be clear. A majority of Canadians support this pipeline. A majority of British Columbians support this pipeline. And as long as the world needs these resources, as long as the world needs oil and gas, until that last barrel comes out of the ground, as much of those resources as possible should come from right here in Canada. Why won't this government take up its mantle of leadership, deliver on what it promised, and get this pipeline built?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, news flash, we're in a trade war. We're in a trade war, and we don't get to choose the attitude and the response of other countries. We get to choose what we do in response to protect our industries here in Canada. Tariff-impacted industries know across Canada that this government is standing up to protect their interests at every step along the way. Whether the PM is overseas securing new investments to open up other markets, or whether he's offering new liquidity support and a package to help their businesses get through challenging times, we're steadfast in supporting Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
Mr. Speaker, on a pipeline to the Pacific, the Prime Minister finds himself in a dilemma of his own making. He, his ministers, his MPs say one thing in British Columbia and another in Alberta, and now he's perched squarely on the fence. Under Section 9210 of the Constitution, the decision is his government's alone. So will he side with the national interest to build a new pipeline, or will he bow to President Trump and keep a supplicant to American interests instead of diversifying our energy exports?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, maybe we should come at this another way. That member is a British Columbia member. Is he really suggesting, even given the constituents he represents from First Nations, is he really suggesting that the Government of Canada, without the consent of the province of British Columbia, without consultation with First Nations, is in a position to do that? I think he doesn't really mean that. I think he hasn't thought this through, and I think that member, once he does, will come back here and agree that the Government of Canada is pursuing the right path.
Member for Okanagan Lake West, South
The arrogance of that answer, Mr. Speaker. He hasn't spoken to my constituents like I have on this issue. And right now, the only thing that is crossing provincial borders is this Prime Minister's indecision. A pizza shop is more productive than this Prime Minister because at least they know what business they're in and they know they need to deliver in a competitive marketplace. Section 9210 is clear. The power to act is his. So will the Prime Minister stop hiding behind premiers and process, or will he finally stand up for Canada, repeal the shipping ban, axe the industrial carbon tax, and build a new pipeline to the Pacific that is in the national interest?
The Honourable Minister responsible for Canada-US trade.
Speaker, we want to thank our colleague in the Conservative Party for that manufactured indignation. And Mr. Speaker, we want to remind him and his colleagues in the Conservative Party that our government made a commitment to Canadians in the last election. It was an election campaign that perhaps they'd prefer to forget. We made a commitment to build the Canadian economy the right way, to build major projects again in a way that respects environmental commitments, our obligations to Indigenous peoples, and working with provinces and territories. They don't like it, Mr. Speaker. We like it, and we're proud to continue to do it.
Hear, hear. Honourable member for Calgary Signal Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has stated that he wants to make Canada an energy superpower. Well, good news. This Prime Minister has the power to approve
could see that coming. I could see that coming. In the business, it's called an applause line, but the member may start from the top. Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister has stated that he wants to make Canada an energy superpower. Well, good news. This Prime Minister has the power to approve a pipeline to the BC coast. Section 9210 of our Constitution gives the Prime Minister jurisdiction over interprovincial projects like pipelines, not premiers, the Prime Minister. So will he stop passing the buck and approve an oil pipeline to the coast so that we can get this nation-building pipeline built?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister so far has referred $117 billion, $117 billion of projects to the MPO. Maybe this member can join us tomorrow in Calgary and see how this government, with the provinces, is building Canada strong.